Our next speaker is Enrique Gomez, who is the president of the Jackson County branch of the NAACP. Enrique has lived in Jackson County for 13 years. He's an associate professor of physics and astronomy at WCU. And he's also this year chair of the Faculty Senate, in addition to being president of the NAACP. Welcome to Enrique.
I am in mourning today. My uncle, Matias Herrera, is dead. He was kidnapped from his home yesterday in the town of Pánuco, Mexico, and his body was found this morning. My uncle was Afro-Mexican. My uncle was running for office. We should not live in the world where people who want to exercise their rights, run for office, participate in politics, exercise their free speech, fear for their lives in this country or any country. We should not live in a world where women fear to send their children to school. We should not live in a world where people fear to go to their places of worship. We should not live in a world where people fear even going to a Walmart to shop. And we should not live in a world where there are elected officials that tweet and celebrate the impunity of gun violence. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is dedicated to the fundamental principle of equality of all races and to protect the constitutional right of citizens to vote. That right was paid by the work and sacrifice of blood of courageous women of men that gave their lives for this. And yet, our rights to vote are under threat. We know that a party in power in the White House relies on voter suppression in a time of lower voter participation to maintain their grip. We have the words. We have the recordings of Justin Clark, the president's own top re-election strategist, telling Republican leaders in Wisconsin last November that the Republican Party has traditionally relied on voter suppression tactics to win in swing states, and they will do it again in 2020. The NAACP, in coalition with people who love liberty all over the country, are working hard to protect our lives and our right to vote. In 2016, the NAACP in North Carolina fought and won in federal court and determined that the North Carolina General Assembly had unconstitutionally, racially gerrymandered 2 congressional districts because we have the recordings, we have the records, we have the late Thomas Hofeler's work, the architect of this state's congressional districts. These documents have been discovered and released publicly by her daughter that outlined this strategy of unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. We have the files that state how important it is for this particular leaders that state that the citizenship question in 2020 be included to artificially depress the participation of people in the census and suppress the constitutional representation of people in this state. In 2016, the NAACP fought and won in federal court, who agreed that the voter ID laws were designed to suppress the votes of African Americans disproportionately with surgical precision. And they did not accept this. They forced a constitutional referendum in 2018 with a media campaign promulgating demonstrable lies to permanently enshrine in the Constitution of these states voter suppression tactics. The NAACP has continued to challenge this, and at the behest of the NAACP, the U.S. District Court Judge Loretta Briggs issued a notice this past December that says that voters will not have to present a voter ID in the March primaries in North Carolina. And even then, we have even bigger threats. I remember a time when the American conservative movement stood for accountability and honesty. I remember a Republican Party that had fundamental, unquestionable principles. And now we have a Republican Party that have turned mendacity into a virtue. The president lies. He lies repeatedly. He lies pathologically. He lies demonstrably. And he lies unapologetically. He lies about the economy. He lies about international law. He even lies about our own Constitution. He lies to impress. He lies to win favors with his base. And he lies to cover his previous lies. Dishonesty and fabrication are the defining hallmark of this administration. It is not enough to resist him. It is not enough to impeach him. It is not enough to vote him out of office. It is not enough to denounce and vote out of office all of those who covered for him, who colluded with him, who lied for him, who made excuses for him, who were silent while the fabric of our constitutional democracy was rendered and the good name and faith of the United States of America was dragged through their filth. We need a constitutional restoration. We need to restore our democratic institutions and reaffirm our common constitutional moral values, or otherwise we will not have a nation that will be worthy of our children. The only way we can do this is through a massive voter participation, massive voter turnout. Somebody say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It's through a massive voter turnout at that level that the nation has never seen before, that we will overcome all schemes that the extremists in the orbit of this president have devised to lock their power. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It is massive voter turnout that can overcome racial gerrymandering. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It's what can overcome voter suppression, voter ID, hidden poll taxes, at the target minority. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! That can overcome the hacking into our state board of election systems. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It's what can overcome disinformation campaigns orchestrated by foreign governments. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It's what can overcome the racial dog whistles that divide people with common interests. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It's what can overcome the disease of cynicism and the normalizing of dishonesty in our body politics. Someone say massive voter turnout. Massive voter turnout! It's what can dissuade a candidate as corrupt, compromised, beholden to foreign powers as this president from ever daring for running for office in this land. In the face of this most corrupt and moral leadership, I join a call for a moral revolution of values, an ethical imperative across the political spectrum that informs how we conduct ourselves and live by our shared values. We need to feminize our politics. And it is not enough to run a woman for office, because any woman can run and win for office of every office of this land. We need to bring women's issues into the forefront. Yes. Because women's issues are moral human issues. They're essential for an order of equity and inclusion and fundamental care for the least of this. We need an equal rights amendment. There are moral laws and physical laws in this universe that are plain for all to see, that even the most powerful must bow to. And it is with the restoration of the integrity and accountability of our political system that we as a nation can invest in our common good. That we will take the poor, the oppressed, the sick, the marginalized, the refugee, the silenced, and raise them to a place of love and justice and dignity, because we are such a nation.
Thank you, Enrique. We offer our deepest sympathy at the loss of your uncle. I'm so very sorry.